Welcome back to another episode of the Inspire Brew. I'm Ingrid, your host, and today we're going to be talking all about brand archetypes. These are actually a way that you can get a persona for your brand and kind of have some guidelines for connection, messaging, how things should look, how things should feel, all of those things that your brand should harness in order to connect with your audience. We are boxing them into archetypes, and the brand archetypes have been around for a while. There are 12 of them. I'm going to walk you through just a couple of details so that you can start identifying your archetypes. Inside of the show notes, you will find a little quiz so that you can find a little bit of a path. I will say you won't get one archetype because at the end of the day, all of our brands have sprinkles of other archetypes, but it does give you such a clear view on how to create your messaging. So the most important thing I want you to get out of a brand archetype is that it is not a box that you should feel trapped into. It is not set in stone, first of all, but also this is to create an emotional resonance. This is to connect with your audience. So we want to try to always pull from the brand archetype the emotions, the positives, those things that are going to connect us to our people, and use that in our marketing, use that in our visuals, use that in our copy, everywhere that we have a touch point with our audience, we should be using our brand archetype. Let me give you the 12 archetypes and then we'll dive a little bit into each one. And I have them in front of me so that I can get all of those details. So let's start with the hero. So the hero is the one that wants to make the world a better place through their products, their offers, their services. They have that aspirational and very inspirational kind of brand. Think like Nike or like Apple, but if I go with a Nike one, that is a perfect example because it has its slogan that says just do it. So it's very motivational. It's pushing their audience to just go for it, which obviously translates great with the whole athletic theme that they have going on. The next one is the outlaw. So this one is like the rebel kind of archetype. It's the one that pushes the boundaries of what is set to be and what can it potentially be. And so it does have that kind of challenging the status quo and helping their audience stand out from the crowd with that intention in mind. So a classic example for this is the freedom and individuality that the brand can bring out. So a super classic one. Think of Harley Davidson. I'm not a motorcycle rider, obviously, but that is the kind of brand that I always associate with someone that speaks of the outlaw brand archetype because it has that whole adventurous but rule breaking kind of feeling that goes with it. Then we have the magician. So the magician is the innovation encapsulated. So it offers innovative solutions and it promises to make a dream come true. It might sound like a very grand brand archetype that is making big promises, but it's mostly like aligning with the dreams of your audience and moving them from point A to point B, making those dreams a reality by the end of the day. Like even, for example, a brand designer and web designer like myself, particularly, at least my brand, has a lot of that magician brand archetype because we're trying to flex a solution to move them forward into their business growth from point A to point B. Hopefully, this kind of also resonates for those that are Apple users like myself. Apple has that kind of innovation, visionary, moving forward kind of deal. So it really brings forward that magician brand archetype. The other one that we have is the lover. It is described as like passionate and sensual and very intimate. Obviously, the name gives it away. But this is a very emotional connection, emotional driven kind of brand archetype. It wants to have that sense of belonging and really being in a community. A brand that might not sound like the lover kind is actually very much it. Coca-Cola Company. They are a huge company. They have very much a brand name for themselves, but they have a lot of umbrella brands under them. But the main Coca-Cola Company brand is a community-based brand. All of their marketing, all of their commercials, all of their ads, they're always geared towards that being part of. You can see people just passing around with Coca-Cola here and there, and everybody's happy and having a good time. It's always that connection, intimate group feeling. So even though it's the lover, it doesn't really have to be like about passion and love and like a dating site or anything like that. It is the emotions that it's evoking. It is the connection that is bringing forward. So I tend to really stay away from the romantic and focus more on the sense of belonging, that community that I was mentioning. The next one that we have is the jester. So this is the playful one, as the name suggests. So it's very irreverent, it's fun, it brings a little bit of lightheartedness into the whole play. An example for this one is Old Spice. Please tell me you've seen any kind of commercial by Old Spice, please. This is one of those brands where you want to have a fresh kind of take on a messaging, and you will be bringing in a little bit of irreverence in there, but your audience appreciates that. They resonate with that kind of marketing. They resonate with the fact that you are being playful, that you have that lightheartedness all about the brand, and it moves them into the direction of where they're going. So whether they're purchasing a product, an offer, or service, whatever it is, they resonate with that lightheartedness. You're not taking yourself too seriously because they're not taking themselves too seriously either. So then we go with the next one, which is number 6, the everyman. It has a couple of different ways. The girl next door, the everyman, like this is your average person, the human. So it's very relatable, it's down to earth, and it feels authentic. Inclusivity is going to be a big word for this brand. It wants to bring in that same kind of community feeling that the lover brings, but this is more like letting you know you belong in this table. That is how this brand tends to really differentiate from the lover, where it's like the lover, it's the community piece. Like we're all here, we're a loving family. But the whole point of the everyday man is to feel like you're connected to it because you belong, you're part of it. You can be a part of it if you want to. So a super clear example is the IKEA brand. It might not seem like it, but they have that super laid back, but also embracing certain aspects of what people might find as a misfit. So for example, with their furnitures, they bring in the style and always present them in this super tiny apartments. And if you've ever walked through at IKEA store, you can see that they build like different mini apartments, and it tells you how many square feet there are. And it's like, why sacrifice your style just because of the space that you have available? So they try to make sure that everybody feels included. So even those that don't have big spaces, they have some mini patios showing how it could look and how they're styling things very easily so that you can feel like, yeah, you know what? I actually can do this myself as well. And fun story, my whole kitchen is actually from IKEA, from every like nuts, bolts, doors, everything. And my husband put it together. I can assure you they work. The next brand archetype that we have is the caregiver. So the caregiver is nurturing, supporting, compassionate, all the love, being there for you. So it prioritizes the well-being of their audience and the customers and the wider community. So I have a brand in mind that's called Urban Organics. They create organic skincare, and they're in Oregon, so hence the name. But they care about the community. So it gives you that like prioritization of the well-being for the person that's consuming the offer. And I want you to think about that when you're going for the caregiver. It's about how can you care for your person in a one-on-one kind of scenario? Like how is your offer making their lives better? Then we move on to the ruler. Confident, authoritative, influential. So the ruler really is that like excellence and sophistication and exuding it in a confident way. I'm not saying like it's arrogant. It might sound a little bit sometimes, but it's that point of I am a luxury item. A super example that I wish everybody could relate to is there was this commercial, and it seems like I watch a lot of TV, but no, I actually like to analyze ads because big brands put a lot of thought to them. So there was a commercial so long ago by Jaguar, the car brand maker. So they put together a bunch of actors. They always portray villains in movies, but they are all from the UK. The brand is from there too. And it was like their way of playing forward the excellence in that sophisticated luxury that the villains always have in movies. And they put it together into a commercial. So it was really fun. But basically the ruler is that confidence, like walking, like it's confidence with legs at that point. Then we have the creators. So a lot of innovation, expressiveness, and art. They want to express themselves outside of the box. They have a lot of like imagination embedded into them. So a great brand to think about is Lego. So Lego is not only for kids, it has so many collections for grown-ups as well. Their offers are actually built to be multifaceted But Lego always pushes their people, their audience, their customers to think outside of the box. You can absolutely stay in the box that they marked for you so that you can have fun with it. Because obviously if you don't know where to start, especially like with kids, you're giving them a little bit of guidance on this piece goes here, but then they will build their own world, and that's what they push forward. They want you to have that like freedom of imagination. So the creator is definitely want to think outside of the box all the time. Then we have the innocent. So this is pure, optimistic, honest. The way that you can see it on brands is that it's going to be worry-free and simple and trying to literally just tone down things to a way that they feel gentle and just very like you can embrace it. So Dove is a great example. It has its real beauty campaign. If you have seen it, it is a great set of ads, and they have had this campaign for a while. It embodies this archetype because it has this series of taking you through different bodies, different people, different sizes, different everything. They focus on the human. They focus on that simple gentleness of the product. Then we have the sage, knowledgeable, wise, and trustworthy. Obviously, the name gives it away at that point. So the sage brands are really going to be the expert in their fields. These is usually going to be seen for consultants, coaches, those that are educators or turn educators. For example, I mentioned before that my brand has a lot of that like magician piece in there, but I also add a lot of the sage because I mentor other designers. I have courses for designers. I have courses for non-designers. It puts you in the expert seat because you have to know what you're talking about in order to teach someone else what the crap are you talking about. So you have to have something that you're going for, but it doesn't mean that you're always like teaching. So not to be confused with that. A great example of this would be Google. So they wanted to be the best search engine and they have pushed forward in so many other things. They have a million offers. They have a million products now, but they wanted to just be that like top level. So they achieved it at this point. Like we just say, Google it. We use it as a verb. But obviously right now there's a lot more competition. They're not just the only one in the realm, but that kind of brand still manages to fit within that archetype. It is a sage kind of brand archetype because it is bringing you that step forward. They're an expert in their field and they're the standard for so many things. So yeah, they are definitely part of that archetype. Then we have finally the explorer. And as it sounds, adventurous, independent, pioneering. And if we go back into the outlet, where we also have some kind of going out of the way and like with the Harley Davidson example that I gave you, it might feel like, is there a difference? Yes, the outlet focuses more on the way of being, the mindset of it. The explorer is really like stepping outside of your comfort zone from like a personal perspective, exploring more horizons, going forward. What else can you do? What else could you achieve? So think about the REI company. They have things for outdoors and they are the perfect explorer kind of brand because their whole message is go out and explore. And that's like the whole brand archetype. So they want to go the extra mile. This does not mean that you need to be the outdoor company or selling things that are for camping or for actual exploring, but anything that moves your audience to go further, to explore, to grow past what is out there, you could potentially just pull a lot from the explorer itself. You will get sprinkles from multiple archetypes. I like to make sure that if you are going to use the brand archetypes to guide you and help you position your brand and get like a marketing perspective and messaging connection in there, that you pick one as your main brand archetype and then you choose a secondary. That to me gives you a well-roundedness because you're going to have one main message pulling out of that. And then you're going to have those sprinkles of, but I also can do this for you, or but I also can give you this. That's my dog. Hopefully you don't feel like you have to trap yourself into a single box or just a single archetype. There's 12 of them and you can have multiple of them. I would never want to go as far as say pick 3 or pick 4. You might see traits from them, of course. Our brands are multifaceted just like we are. But if you really just start putting like 3, 4 labels in there, you're going to muddle the message. You are going to make it a little bit messier to get a clear connection across with your audience. So The way that I would suggest that you identify your brand archetypes to ask yourself a couple of questions, and I have them here because obviously I want to make sure that I read them correctly. So the first thing that I would recommend to check is, what are your core brand values? If you had to sit down and say, my brand is a person, and by the time that I've known them, I can tell you their values and the way that they live their life is because X, Y, and Z. So the principles, anything that moves you forward, right? What is your brand mission? So why did you started it? Why is this here? Why did you created it? What's the main point of someone even working with you? And how do you want your customers to feel when interacting with your brand? This is a big one because obviously, if you want to inspire them, or if you want to make them laugh, or you want to make them feel comfortable or like they belong into the table, see how all of those are the things that the brand archetypes are already telling you. Then what are your brand's unique strengths and qualities? This is great. And you do need to know your USP, so your unique selling proposition, or what makes you like uniquely valuable that you're putting out there. What sets you apart from the competition? That's the whole point. There's this brand that's called Almond Cow, and they sell a machine so that you can literally create plant-based milk from anything that you want. Almonds, cashews, coconut, whatever you put in there. I mean, they can actually do more things in there, but it's basically a blender, and then it just mixes water and creates plant-based milk. Boom. But the community that they build around it to connect other people that are like-minded and to bring on recipes, how people are using it, what have you done with their almond cow, things like that. That starts speaking to that whole uniqueness that they're bringing into the table and the feelings that they want to evoke of that community and all of that. So hopefully you start seeing the little pieces and the threads that are going to be connecting all the things, and that will put you in a better path to follow and to find that brand archetype. Another thing that I want you to consider is, what language and tone does your brand use? Because obviously this is going to go to, are you speaking to them in a very like soothing voice, or are you actually trying to be very invigorating? What's going to be the main tone for your brand? That tells you what kind of brand archetype you need so that you can start leveraging it for emotional connection. Because again, what you want to do is infuse your messaging with it. Use it everywhere that you are talking to your customer. You want to make sure that your visuals are aligning with it. Because again, if you are the caregiver and very soothing, or you're going to be the outlaw and it's going to be very bold and contrasty, you want that to fit, not just the copy, not just the tone, the messaging. The visuals are super important. You're going to bring on that consistency, which you need to do that. We all know that for brands to grow and to actually sell, it needs to feel repetitive. You got to be talking about the same things in different ways, but you need to feel like you're doing it repetitively. Because for your audience, it's not. You are not the only thing that they hear all the time. You're not the only ad that they get. You're not the only email that they receive in their inbox. You're not the only blog that they're reading. You're not the only video that they're watching. You need to always be consistent with your messaging, and your brand archetype helps you do that. A really good way is to try to do some storytelling. And I do have a couple of blog posts on my site about storytelling, but stories sell and they are memorable, and it's a way for you to connect with them. It's such a powerful way that you can connect and start building those nurturing pieces that you need in order to build trust, because trust equals action, and action for you means conversions at the end of the day. And I'm all about conversions. And then I have some like real world examples with brand archetypes so that you can start associating things that you see in your everyday life. So for example, for the creator, Freck Beauty, if you've never seen one of their reels, they're so fun. They have a product that literally is to create freckles on your face, and they have this very playful and bold kind of way of portraying everything that they're doing. And it's such a simple thing, like it's just a makeup product, but it's the way that they are doing things that just feels like they are infusing a lot more creativity, and they're doing things differently. They're going outside of the box. And they have, and I have it here somewhere, they have a quirky product named Cheek Slime Blush that it's like that commitment. Like they're taking it further. They're going for that creativity and doing things differently. Like they even have put that into the names. Let's go to the caregiver, the Honey Pot Company. This is a Black-owned feminine care brand that aligns with the caregiver archetype because they speak of that safe, effective, natural products that prioritize self-care. I feel like the caregiver is such a clear brand archetype. The outlaw, Fenty Beauty, because yes, of course. Obviously, being founded by Rihanna, it embodies the outlaw so well. She embodies that brand archetype in every single one of the brands that she represents, even herself. So the brand itself breaks the norm because they bring into the makeup world when they first started and they came out so many shades of beautiful makeup because they've seen that there's this big gap in the market where we don't fit all the shades. And I say we because obviously, yes, not I'm not that light. I'm not that dark. I don't fit anywhere. I have been mixing colors at some point in my life. It is that crazy. They have this message that reflects the mission of the empowerment of the customer and still breaking the norms and bringing diversity and embracing it. And like they do create a community around it. And they say to people, come and sit at my table. But the outlet that is the leading one, if you want to see it that way. Just like I mentioned at the beginning, where you're going to have one main brand archetype and then you're going to have secondaries and like going down. There are some traits from other brand archetypes in there, but the outlet, that bold, that I'm breaking things and I'm challenging how things are currently, there has to be better. That's what it's embracing. That's what it's bringing to the table. And then we have the Lover Glossier. So this is another skincare and makeup company founded by Emily Weiss. And it aligns with the Lover archetype because they have this focus on enhancing the natural beauty. So their messaging is really emphasizing of the individuality. And I have it right here in their slogan. So skin first, makeup second. And they even had this printed on their makeup delivery boxes. I loved seeing that on the example that I found online when I was creating this guide for you guys. When you buy into the brand, you're buying into the community. You can see how people like sharing what products they're using, what shade they're using, what kind of routine they're implementing. I wanted to have those examples in there because I know that seeing them in the real world with things that we interact and brands that we might have in home or things that we purchase, it makes it a little bit more tangible to put our finger on. At the end of the day, the brand archetypes is just one method of finding the best way to portray your brand outwards into those marketing efforts that you have to connect with your audience. There's a million other ways that you could do it, but I hope the brand archetypes bring you some clarity. So this is your moment to pick the one that will connect you to the people that will feel aligned the best with you. So hopefully you found this helpful. And if you need to use the quiz, I'm going to leave it linked below. And I want to know what brand archetype you are leaning into. I feel like brands evolve. You might have one right now and it might change a little bit into the further, like when seasons change at the end of the day. We're not static and I don't want you to feel boxed or trapped, but hopefully this gives you a lot to think about and it allows you to grow your business right where you are right now.